Today, I just want to start by, again, thanking you all here in San Francisco for your cooperation. I know that it has not been easy. We've imposed restrictions to your lives that have made things not only very difficult for you, but difficult for your family. Sometimes difficult for not just your physical well-being, but also your mental well-being. We have tried to make sure that in this process, as we are trying to protect public health, we don't create an even worse problem with a number of those sorts of challenges related to mental health, related to economic health of your household, and those other matters. It has been probably, I'm sure, for some of you, the most challenging time of your lives. And I know that some of the assistance and programs that we've offered from the city may have been helpful, but it's definitely nothing like getting back to work and earning your own income and being able to take care of your family. There is nothing like that, and we want to make sure that we are able to get back to that, but more importantly, we have to make sure that we are able to continue to keep people safe. This has been pretty much the most difficult thing I've had to do, is to ask the people of this city to basically stay at home and only leave your house for essential services, or if you're an essential worker, or to get fresh air and exercise. I've asked you to do that through a deadline with the hopes of maybe moving back to allowing the city to open, and today, unfortunately, we will need to extend the deadline for the stay-at-home order through the month of May. And I know that this is, again, very challenging. It's been very challenging for me personally, in addition to, of course, the responsibilities of mayor and making sure that I am informed and making good decisions on behalf of the people of this city. I also have to take care of myself as well. And in fact, being in the house all the time and not being able to visit with my friends and my family, and that's been very challenging. I wasn't going to tell anyone this publicly, but I had a moment this weekend, and I started playing music that I grew up to, and I started dancing by myself and singing the words of songs that I hadn't heard in years. It really did make me feel good. It made me feel alive. It made me feel hopeful that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. And I know that so many of you are looking at ways in which you can also continue to use this as an opportunity to make sure that you are taking this time for granted in ways that continue the positivity, the goodness, and that you're able to get yourselves and your families through this time. It has already been very difficult, I'm sure, for many of you, especially kids who cannot play with their friends, or a lot of the seniors who are graduating high school, the kids who want to go to the parks, not being able to see your grandma or grandpa. I can't even imagine just how challenging, I'm sure, this has been for so many of you. And again, I want you to know that we realize these are real challenges. And as we extend this stay-at-home order, it is going to be important for us to look at ways in which we can develop, along with our health experts, policies that will get us back to plans in order to open our city again. And let me just be clear that public health is our priority. Taking the data and the information from our public health experts and using that to make determinations around what we can and can't do is critical to making sure that we're protected. But we also need to prepare. And as I mentioned to you all last week, our Economic Recovery Task Force has already started meeting. The goal is to provide recommendations because when the city does open, there is going to be a change. There's going to be a change with restaurants. There's going to be a change with hair salons and nail salons and various job opportunities. There's going to be a real change with large-scale events. There's a lot of uncertainty because right now what we see are the numbers go up every single day in our city. We also see the number of hospitalizations. They have gone up in our city, and the good news is they've not gone up as large as other places because you all are doing your part to comply. But the fact is they are still going up. So we are not out of the woods yet. And so we want to be very careful that we not take the steps out of frustration, out of concern. We don't move too quickly and repeat mistakes that have been made in our past history. About 100 years ago, I brought up the last time the Spanish flu, when we thought the worst had passed us, and folks threw off their mask and went out into the streets and partied and had a good time, and a few days later, we were even worse off than when we started. We don't want that to happen in our city. This is not an easy thing to do, and to continue to come to every press conference and not only thank you for what you've done, but to ask you to do more. This has been very difficult to do because as hard as I know it's been for me, I'm sure it is so much harder for all of you. And I just want to continue to express my gratitude because the only reason why the numbers are not as bad as they could be has everything to do with so many of you. And your patience and your understanding has been really the guiding light in what has been a very, very challenging situation. So I just want to appreciate that, express that there are the deadline for the stay-at-home order has been extended through May, and we are hopeful that through this Economic Recovery Task Force and some of the other things that we are doing with our public health officials, we will be able to come back to you with good news about things that we will be able to do to make things easier for you in this situation. And speaking of good things that we are able to do as a city, after examining what we know people are interested in our Safe Streets program and closing off streets and allowing people to socially distance easier and safely. That program has been successful, and closing JFK Drive on the weekends has been successful. And after our review of JFK Drive and the fact that people over the weekends are basically definitely complying in most instances with the order, following the direction, we think it's only it's only fair to offer JFK Drive to close that street effective 6 a.m. Permanently through the course of this stay-at-home order. And I want to be clear, after this stay-at-home order has expired, that will no longer be the case. But in the meantime, in an effort to provide more space for people to move around and maybe get some exercise and to run and to bike, we wanted to do something that would help. We don't want people driving to the park still. We want people walking through their neighborhoods and to their neighborhood parks. We don't want people setting up picnics or play dates or the things we talked about. We still need you to socially distance yourselves from people out in the park and to stay 6 feet apart. That is so critical because we're going to close JFK Drive and we're going to close Shelley Drive in McLaren Park to car traffic as a way to provide more space for more people to move around, because we know that there are larger populations using these parks in these areas, and it gives you an opportunity to move around safely. And that's what this is about. And so we hope that this new opportunity, this new adjustment will make this additional extension of time to stay at home a lot more easier for each and every one of you. So again, thank you for your cooperation. I want to talk a little bit about what's happening with rent collection for tenants that are tenants with the City and County of San Francisco. And as some of you are aware, a moratorium on residential and commercial evictions has been moved forward through an executive directive by my office. We've extended that to ensure that as this pandemic continues and people are unable to get back to work in a timely manner, we are able to make sure that no one is evicted because of what's happening with COVID-19 to each and every one of us. That doesn't mean that if you can pay rent and you are able and you are still getting paid, I mean, that does not mean that you should stop paying your rent, but there are so many people out there who are in a situation where they have a space that they lease and they're not generating any revenue whatsoever because they are not an essential business. And as a result, they cannot pay their rent or other bills for this space. Our goal is to make sure that when our city reopens, we want our economy to, of course, get going sooner rather than later. And what that means is making sure that we're not losing all of our businesses, our small businesses, our medium-sized businesses, that they are able to come back to work on day one with the new guidelines and get started right away without the fear of being evicted. So we've done this with the city already, with the city tenants in particular, and we're asking our enterprise departments, and they are seriously considering, and I'm sure are going to move in this direction. In fact, the Port of San Francisco will be moving this week in that direction with their clients, the people who occupy a number of real estate along the port. They will get some relief soon, as well as the airport and other enterprise departments in the city where there is an opportunity to hold off on rent collection and to work with our tenants. That is something that we need to do because even when we reopen the city with new guidelines, financially, it's still going to be challenging. Tourism, our number one industry where a lot of revenue is generated for the city, it's not going to just return overnight. So we are all facing very similar challenges, and so it's important that we provide tools that will make it easier for us to face it together.